Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of RV Tips and Trips. Today we're going to talk about upgrading our battery bank and installing a 1500 watt pure sine wave inverter. So stay tuned, don't go away, be right back. Wheel was the battery, and there is a little well in which the original battery sat in. So it was a group 27 deep cycle battery, lead acid, wet, flooded cell, and it was 105 amp hours, and that's it. And that really did not cut the mustard at all. So I got AGM batteries, which is something I prefer anyway. And the advantages of the AGM, number one, is you can discharge them more deeply. They accept a charge much faster, and there's no outgassing from the cells. They're totally sealed. Gases are formed inside the battery and then are recombined into the solution. So it's not vented. There are pressure reliefs incorporated in there, so if for some reason the pressure builds up too high within the battery, it can then release that pressure. But the nice thing with AGMs also is they're not spillable because they are sealed. And with no gas emission, you don't have to worry about venting these batteries to the outside. So I got 3 Duracell AGM batteries. This is the Platinum series, and I've hooked them all up in parallel. The capacity of these batteries is 92 amp hours, as indicated on the label, each. I got these at Sam's Club, and they were on sale for $133 a piece. So I mean, that was an exceptional buy. I bought AGM batteries before at Batteries Plus, and a battery like this in the Group 24 was $200 on sale. These are Group 27, so they're bigger battery, bigger plates. They should hold up better. So 92 amp hours each in parallel should give me, I think off the top of my head, about 276 amp hours total capacity. And then if you only go to 50% depth of discharge, then half of that is what you're. But you can cycle these down to 20%, because I've done it before on other AGMs without hurting the batteries at all. So these can take a lot more punishment. So I like them a lot. So $133 a piece at Sam's Club. Excellent buy, and it increases our battery capacity by quite a bit. I made sure I got them all with the same manufacture date, August 18. Every one of them had a sticker. Well, this one's, I lost the sticker, but it did say August 18. That one also says August of 18. All the batteries are hooked in parallel. Negative to negative to negative, then you got positive to positive to positive. And now your load and your charging lines, when they come in, I put the negative terminal from both my load and my charging line at the one battery. And then you connect the positive lead from the charging line and load to the last battery in the line. This way you have equal charging and discharging across all the batteries. So should always do that. Not connect both the negative and positive at one end of the battery bank, because that's you're going to have little variances from battery to battery. We want them all to be equal in charge and in discharge. Alright, so we're going to install our pure sine wave inverter right here, right by the battery bank, and I'm going to fuse it. It's a 1500 watt pure sine wave inverter. I'm going to turn this around. So 1500 watt pure sine wave inverter, and here it is. Now this I got at Amazon. I got a really good buy on it. So I'll put a link for it, and you can check it out. So I haven't even tested this yet. So we're going to do that in a little bit here. To fuse it, I went to auto parts store, and I got this mega fuse, 175 amps. I calculated the current draw on the pure sine wave inverter to be 135 amps at 1500 watts, and then of course you want to have your fuse a little bit above that. I went 20% above the average current draw. This way, if there's a surge, you're not going to pop the fuse right away. So 175 amp. Let's see if we can focus in on that. It's called a mega fuse. Okay. There we go. So 175 amp fuse. Now the bolt that you see on here, I went to Home Depot and I got a 5/16 by 5/8 bolt, and lock washer and 2 flat washers and a nut. So what I'm going to do is mount this, because the hole on this will fit right on the battery terminal. So I'm going to tie that down there. I don't need any support there. This is pretty substantial. And then connect the cable from the inverter right here. Alright, so let me go ahead and get the inverter mounted in the RV. You see, it came with cables, and it says these are starter cables in the instruction. What the hell are starter cables? Well, these cables are probably a little bit on the light side as far as gauge, so I'm not going to use those. I have other cables that are a little bit heavier, and it should be fine. But we want to keep our cable from the battery to the inverter as short as possible. So the cables I have is only a couple feet long, but that will work just fine. There are grommets in there that you put in to help shock mount the inverter from whatever you're mounting it to. It also comes with a wired remote. So I'm going to, it has like a telephone connection on the one end. RJ11 I think is what that is. And then I'll put this in the inside the trailer. So, and then it will actually turn it on and off, which is nice. So this should be pretty easy and straightforward. The hardest part is going to be running the wire from inside the trailer to the inverter. With the inverter, and this is the cable I had. This cable here is 4 gauge, and as you can see, if you put them side by side, the one that comes with the inverter is way lighter. So not good enough. Carrying 135 amps max on this line, you need the heavy cable. I mean, you can see the difference. So 4 gauge should be fine. I think with 4 gauge wire you can actually carry up to 300 amps. So These wires should not run warm. And that's one of the things we'll check when we get this installed. Make sure at max load these cables are not heating up. Connected the cables to the inverter first. We don't want to connect to the batteries first and then to the inverter, because then you could accidentally short. So I connected here and made these nice and tight so these don't move. It's important that these connections are tight, because if you're passing a lot of current and the connection is not tight, you're going to start heating things up at that point, and this is good and snug, so I'm not worried about it. You'll start heating up that and create arcing and ruin the connection, and you could generate a fire. Alright, so now that the cables are hooked up, now I can figure out exactly where to mount the inverter so these cables will reach the connections on the batteries. So this is only a couple feet long, and we want to keep them as short as possible. I'm going to connect a fuse on the positive side right at the battery. Inverter on the wall, and I got the cables coming out from the bottom, and then the black wire will run over to this battery over here, and the positive lead's going to run over to this other battery on the positive terminal. There again, spreading the load, across all the batteries. Plenty of room here for air to circulate. There are two fan motors down here, and we got room under. Got room underneath here for air to come in and for it to exit out. This inverter box is actually quite big, so there's a lot of room in there for heat to dissipate, which is good. And then my outlets, my 110 volt outlets are up top here, as well as a USB, and then power switch. Now we got also a ground lug here. We're going to ground this to chassis. This has negative ground, and so we got metal right over here to ground to. So always got to connect your grounds. Alright, so let me go ahead and hook up the fuse, then I'll hook up the positive lead to the inverter, and then I'll hook up the negative lead. Test the setup. We're all connected. I checked all the connections. Everything is tight. We're fused right off the battery terminal, right there, to the inverter, and there's no stress on the cables. They're all nice and relaxed. You don't want tension on these cables at all. They gotta, so that all looks good. Everything is tight. So we're going to test this Power Tech on inverter. And there's no on-off switch on the inverter itself. You have to use the remote switch. So we're going to go ahead and plug in a fan. And let me see which way these outlets go. There we go. Alright, so I plugged in the fan. Now these, getting a little breezy here. Alright, so the instructions say to press and hold the power button for a couple seconds. I hear life. And fan is running. It works. Alright. So it's running the fan right now, and it all looks good. Alright, so then I'm going to finish the installation by finding a convenient place to locate the remote switch inside the rig and run the wire through. Like I said, it uses like a telephone connection. So this inverter is 1500 watts continuous, which is more than my other one was in the other trailer. I had 1000 watt by Renogy, and I like that one very much also. So now we have a little more capacity. Of course, I have a little bigger battery bank too. So I'm going to go ahead and unplug this, and I'll shut off the sine wave. Now it shows 3000 watts. That's peak. So you get a surge. You can handle 3000 watts for a second. Not very long. So a lot of times, motors that start up will draw a lot of current when you first turn them on, and then go down to an actual consistent level. So far so good. Like I said, this inverter has like wide open spaces inside, so a lot of room for heat dissipation. I'm hoping that it works well. It's got a 1-year warranty, so you got to watch a lot of the stuff you buy online, 90-day warranties or whatever, but this is a full year, so it looks good. So eventually we'll go ahead and hook up solar cells. We have the pre-wire on the side of the trailer, but look at that. This is the cable that they hook up to the battery for the solar pre-wire. It's very light cable, and that goes up there and out the side to a connector by Furrion right there. So I might initially use that, I don't know, but it's convenient. If you're only going to run 100 watts, then this is adequate. There's a lot of suitcase solar panels that you can get that's 100 watts that would use that, and that's okay, but that would not be enough to charge this battery bank, because we got 3 AGMs now. Alright, so eventually I think what I want to do is get a 500 watt system with an MPPT controller, and I got room to mount the controller right here, so I got that in mind. There should be plenty of room on the roof for 500 watts of solar, and that should serve us well, but I'm going to do that at a later date. Meanwhile, we can still go ahead and boondock. We got the generator, which is right there. When we run it, we do take it out of there, but when it gets late at night and we want to watch TV, you have to turn the generator off at 10 o'clock because of noise restrictions. Oh, there we are. So then we'll switch to the battery power with the inverter. The output of the inverter is to take a heavy outdoor extension cord, plug it into the output of the inverter, and then the outlet from the power cord then we'll plug into this 30 amp travel trailer adapter, then through the dog bone connection, which goes from the 30 amp travel trailer connector to a 50 amp plug, which now the trailer electrical cord can plug into. So very simple, and then it supplies AC. So must remember to turn the converter off before plugging that in, and then turn on the inverter, and away you go. So here again, dog bone connection to the cord on the RV. And then you need to make sure that you turn the converter off on the trailer, because it's that's what charges the batteries when you're plugged into AC, and you'll create some weird ground loops if you leave that on. So you must turn that off first before you plug into this, and then everything else in the trailer works as normal. Cannot run the air conditioning or the microwaves, but we can run everything else. I did test the system and ran it off the batteries for 10 hours. We watched TV, used the coffee maker, made coffee, and ran all the lights. And after 10 hours, we still had 60% battery capacity remaining. So we typically don't use the batteries for that long. We use them, maybe about 4 hours during the evening. So we should have plenty of juice. We could even use it for maybe about 4 days before having to recharge the system, which is pretty good based on my experience with this so far. So I'm very happy with that inverter. So far it works really good. I found if you do overload it accidentally, like we tried to run the microwave, it just doesn't provide quite enough power to run the microwave. The system shuts down to protect itself. Once the load is disconnected, it automatically cycles itself and comes back on automatically without having to do anything. So that's pretty awesome. I like that. Alright, if you got any questions, don't hesitate to write your questions down in the comments below, and I'll do everything I can to answer them. So until next time, happy camping. See ya. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like and share. Until next time, happy camping.